So recently I started to make videos about D&D. For outsiders this might look like a sudden change, because it kinda is, but one of my main reasons why I'm doing so is because I fundamentally disagree with some mainstream consensus D&D tubers usually have. The "it's all rainbow and sunshine, everybody should pick what suits them the best" sentiment. And I think that's a completely reasonable standpoint one might have, which is mostly true, except when it doesn't. And one of these cases is the grid versus theater of mind discussion, which shouldn't be a discussion at all, and not because theater of mind being obviously superior, but because looking at these two as equally viable options instead of tools you picking according to the situation is a clear sign for me that the particular person is a newbie at the game. I'm sorry, but doing theater of mind is really just a question of skill and experience you have as a DM and player alike. And in my opinion, you should encourage yourself and your players to use it as a primary way how to run combat. So with me spilling out the hottest D&D take right from the get-go, let's support my bold claims with some kind of arguments, shall we? First thing first, what is a grid? Well, it's the grid on which we do all the fighting. You know, I move my piece 6 square tiles and then waste all of my gazillion attack actions on a given bullet sponge. Theater of mind is when we get rid of the grid and move to the land of imagination, where the only real difference is that I move myself 30 feet and once again waste all of my gazillion attack actions on the same poor bullet sponge. The reaction of viewers after hearing my crude definition of these two can be easily plotted according to their skill in the game, ranging from D&D majors who don't really give a shit to midwits who probably are in the comment section by now and type out, "Oh, it's not the theater of mind issue, it's the fact that D&D combat is boring," to green-eared goblins who freak out because of the ginormous amount of abstraction. Getting rid of the grid? How should I remember the map? Position of enemies? How should I position myself tactically? Calm down, rookie. The game is not a Kriegspiel, hence the tactical combat shouldn't concern you at all. The point of my cynical definition of grid and theater of mind was to showcase that once you are no longer on your baby's first dungeon delve adventure, you become all too accustomed to combat being what I just described it. And combat being boring isn't really the problem. Why should every combat have to have a terrain shifting environment and brand new mechanic introduced, even though we fighting guards we bopped into by accident? This kind of narrow-minded approach to combat makes only sense when you view the game as a series of rooms your players had to interact with, usually clearing them from the enemies. Any other way how this role-playing game can be played makes it all too clear why this boring combat ain't really our concern. We can actually double down on this take. If you want to spice up your combat, you quickly learn that theater of mind is actually a lot more suited for this task. It's almost like theater of mind and grid are not preferences, but tools in your toolbox. What? Say you're playing intrigue-heavy campaign where your party is chased by a band of bounty hunters. In Grid, get ready for your players utterly ignore your color-printed JPEG maps and moving off your intended battlefield within like the first round of the combat. But Goblin, you can easily solve this by chunking your battle into models, which you project in front of your players as it suits you. Yeah, I also think creating set pieces solves our issue. Or another scenario, let's suppose you had to run a flight in your combat. You know, the thing dragons from Dungeons and Dragons do. I mean, you can create a 3D dodecahedron grid, but you're probably already running the third dimension as theater of mind. So why is it so hard to extend this to lower dimensions as well? But let's just be ultra generous. And suppose we play a classic kick and door style dungeon crawl. Our party successfully dragged itself through narrow tunnels until they finally reached open spaced cavern with traps, hard terrain and multiple enemies. Sure, the party can run wild, interact with all the stuff you prepared, or you know, they just can stay in safety of tunnels, picking enemies one by one like it's Darkest Dungeon. Oh, here is an RPG which also digit grid, like Stick of Truth and Fear and Hunger. There is actually quite a lot of them for some unknown reason. The main reason why Theater of Mind is more sufficient than Grid is the theater of mind is simply a lot faster, and because in an average session you pull off 2 at maximum 3 combats, time becomes your DM's most valued resource. But there are some good arguments for grid, even I use it from time to time. What? It's not a question of preference, but tools being used correctly? For example, I use grid when playing with newcomers who want to have that full D&D experience they see in medias. After that I teach them to use theater of mind so we can left grid for some climactic fights with all the terrain shifting environment and brand new gameplay mechanics we all knew and love. And my players do in fact love this. We love to pull out our hand-printed minis and building together the most monstrously looking layouts of an arena. So yeah, we all love our minis, but those are not what make the core of the game itself. I often do pancakes for my players. Is this the reason why I'm such a good DM? No, the pancakes are just a nice plus for the session. So is it with the minis. This video was made because of one particular video from Ginny D. I like Ginny D, I just often disagree with her. I suppose that's what happens when you are able to consistently make videos unlike me. Like her video on Theater Mind versus Grid. She did a good job presenting both the sides, but then she went off the rail with, in my opinion, one of the dumbest arguments against Theater of Mind, that being inclusivity towards people who do not pay fucking attention. So, the most common bad argument against theater of mind is how should people with no imagination visualize what's going on? Let's not bother ourselves with this being equivalent to blind person yelling at the art gallery that they cannot see the exhibition, and move on to the core of this argument, that being laziness. What, Goblin? Did you just call ADHD person lazy? That's offensive. No, it's not. I have many ADHD friends and none of them have a problem with theater of mind. Why? Because having ADHD doesn't mean not being able to pay attention. It's just your mind bombarding you with thoughts to worry about. ADHD kids don't have messy lockers because they can't clean up. There's just too many thoughts running in their heads. Thoughts like, I only have a 10-minute break. I need to eat my lunch. I need to use the bathroom. How am I going to clean up my locker? Hence, they need a person who ensures them that all their worries will wait and guide them to do one precise thing. Irolo, that's a problem because not that many people are patient enough to do this for them constantly. But guess what is the duty of a DM at every healthy table? So if you are dedicating yourself to a game of TTRPG where you can ask your DM and the rest of the players for guidance, don't you dare to tell me that making minimal mental effort to convey a trivial abstraction to make the game faster and more versatile is a problem for you because of your neurodivergence. I don't want to sound like a gatekeeper. Game tables should be one of the safest spaces ever, and if even there you cannot play along due to your horrible condition, you should really ask yourself if you are respecting the time and effort of your fellow players and don't use your ADHD as some kind of sick, manipulating bargaining chip. In D&D there are simply things we all silently agreed are necessary for everyone to know, like knowing the basic rules, knowing your character, and I'm dying on this hill that knowing how to run and play theater of mind is one of those things. TLDR, today we learned when to use theater of mind and when to use grid. We learned that theater of mind may come handy more often than you might think, and people who simply cannot keep up with the theater are actually lazy bastards, because theater of mind and grid are tools for enhancing the game and not preferences. Use the correct tools for the correct job. Should have I ended this with use the right tools for the right job, or should I stay with the name of the show? Anyway, this is the end of the video.